Hey everybody. So I want to apologize real quick. It seems like my microphone was cutting out every once in a while. I think I've got it fixed now, but yeah, it happens intermittently during the stream, so I really apologize about that. Buddy, how you all doing today? Oh, I hope you're doing pretty good. Uh, Finally be back, and I guess this will be my first full stream, hopefully. I'm just not even going to be pessimistic, so it will be my first one in a while. So if you didn't catch my report, I can't even really call it a stream, I guess, update video. I'm going to try to start streaming game dev again. I just had to take a break just for a lot of reasons. I don't really want to get into it here, but now I'm going to try to do things a little differently now, mostly focus on smaller games that I can kind of get done in about a month, so that way people don't feel like they have to be invested in such a huge project. I hope that will encourage people to feel like they can jump in and out a little easier. And then a couple times a week, I'm going to try to do just small, like 1-day projects. So I'm thinking Tuesday we'll have like some kind of programming tutorial, and then on Thursday we'll do something with shaders, or that's the plan. Probably not this week though, just because I'm just starting. But so today I'm going to try to, or not try, I am going to make a Twitch interactive game. I'm sure everybody knows that children's game called Memory, where it's like a bunch of tiles on I guess just on a table, and they're all turned over so you can't see the pictures on the front, and then you have to guess which tiles match because everyone has a pair. So we're going to try to do that over Twitch so that people can guess in chat, and then the pictures on the tiles will actually be chat, or I guess followers or whoever, their logos. Kind of fun. That's my plan anyway. I actually have a whole thing written out for it, but we'll go over this later. So I have like a whole new setup for my OBS. I'm trying to use the new Twitch desktop, so I know if something is going wrong, but oh yeah, for my audio as well. One of the reasons I had to take such a long break is that my microphone broke somehow, and I had to send it in for repairs. But it took a while to get it back, but they actually did it for free, so I guess I can't complain too much. So anyway, there's a cool, I guess, API or programming project that people have put together called TwitchLib, and it actually lets Unity, I think any C# program, interact pretty easily with Twitch, so we don't have to actually go through using Twitch's API directly. So that we'll be using that here if you want to. This TwitchLib on GitHub, and also there's this great guide written by Honest Dan Games on Twitch. So yeah, I'd recommend going over to his channel and giving him a follow just for writing the useful guide. So we'll kind of be following it a little bit, because the only bad thing about TwitchLib is it's hard to find documentation besides what's on the page. So the guide helps a little bit with that. Okay. Well, my plans are just to basically test out TwitchLib today, and maybe we'll start on the memory, like the actual game part of it if we have time. But I want to just first make sure we can figure out how to download a logo and place it onto a texture in Unity, and then grab a chat command and also send a response. So we're going to try to do those things. Just to make sure I have something set up, I went ahead and created this really simple code. And you can see if I play it, to get some messages down here letting me know things are working correctly. So yeah, I created the API object, and then our chatbot connected, and then I received a response because I asked Twitch to look up the user information for the specific user ID, which happens to be me. And so we received one user back from the Twitch API, and then this is actually the address for my user logo. I can plug that in. Firefox here. And yeah, it shows up my icon. So we know it's at least giving us the correct information. Oh yeah, sorry if my colorful gloves distract anyone. It's freezing here today. I think it actually broke a record for the lowest temperature day in November. So I guess next what I want to do, I'm not going to worry about this chat stuff for now, so I think I'll just comment it out, and later on we'll make a separate object. In fact, I think I might just make a separate object right now. And this will be just something to download the Ned Makes Games logo and patch it to just a normal texture. Let's just call this logo download tester. Yeah, I'm just gonna kind of try to prototype this, so I don't really care if the code is very messy or anything. Namespace, memory, okay, Twitch memory, and then game logic, test. Yeah, and I am writing this game in Unity, obviously. But for these testing code objects, we'll just be using the normal mono behavior code. But the actual game, I think I'll be using Unity's new object-oriented, or not object-oriented, exact opposite, the data-oriented stack. So if you've never seen that before, it's pretty cool. It actually is much more efficient and lets you use multi-threading in Unity a lot easier than with mono behaviors. But mono behaviors, I think, are still better to prototype with because it requires less setup. So we have the start function, which obviously, if you know Unity, this is called right when the object is loaded. Okay, so we want to get or create a Twitch API object. Actually, we'll just go ahead and import that. And I'll just go ahead and get it, add the namespace to our using list up here. And we can see to initialize this API, I already have this code, so I'll go ahead and grab it. Okay, so what this is, yeah, these information are these numbers I shouldn't actually show on stream because what it is basically is you register that you're going to create an application that interacts with Twitch on Twitch's website, and they give you this secret number. That's how they know, I guess, who is asking for this information. I guess if they found out that somebody was abusing it, they could ban you or something. That's probably why they want it, or for statistics, I don't know. And then this access token is actually for our bot. I guess some API objects or API requests might need to be sent from the bot, and in that case it has this OAuth access number, which is for logging into the bot account that I've made. Obviously, neither of those should be on stream, so I have it in this secrets namespace to help me remember. So I guess we created that. The update function. If I guess put it down. Say if I press, I don't know, the Q key, doesn't matter, then it will start the download. I want to have here to know that if Twitch actually, like if it's already been. I said that didn't have lyrics in it, but whatever. Okay, so I guess let's just have, probably this is the best option, but since we're just testing things out, I think it will be okay. I'll have a Boolean, which will just say request working. So if we press the Q key and request working is false. By the way, I know that you could just, instead of saying equals false, you could just do this. But I learned that this makes it a lot more obvious that you want this to be false. So I just kind of got in the habit of writing this out. Makes it easier to debug, in my opinion. It was kind of easy to just accidentally miss the little exclamation mark. So yeah, if that is true, then we'll want to make the request to the Twitch API. Have this. So technically, this user ID is a string containing the number which corresponds to NedMix Games account. I saw my dashboard flash. I'm not sure what happened, but looks like I'm still good. Anyway, so change this to ID. I guess user ID is fine. This is just the user ID. We want to download the logo. I guess I can call it Twitch. I was trying to think of a better name. And I just got this by plugging in a specific code into my browser, and then I basically just called the Twitch API to figure this out, but kind of outside the scope of what we're trying to do right here, so later on I'll show how to get that number. So I'm going to put it up here so that we, in theory, could put any user in here and then download the logo. So this is the code that we use to ask the Twitch API to download this user's logo. Add the collection namespace for okay, so let me explain what's going on here. So first we just need to make a list of all users that we want to download, and they let you do this so that you can send a request for multiple users at once. That way you kind of save on bandwidth, but we just want one, so just a single user. And then so just let's ignore this invoke part for now. But this is the code that we want to use to initiate the request, get the user ID. So yeah, this is the Twitch API object, and then the users object, and then the Helix is Twitch has multiple different APIs. I think that the Helix is the newest but I think they still in beta, so they have different APIs available. It's version 5, so that's why that's there. And then this is the actual function. So it's get users asynchronous, which just means we have to wait for the request to be sent to Twitch and then give it back to us. And then this will be the function that will be called when we receive the response from Twitch. I'm gonna go ahead and generate a method for that. And then this Twitch API invoke basically just ties this method to this request, so that when we get the response from here, Twitch API will call this method for us. Let's go here. Water. Yeah, it's been a while. I'm gonna have to get used to talking for 2 hours again. But anyway, let's see. So I guess this is pretty simple. And then this user response is what actually holds the information that we want. So first of all, we need to make sure that the response has a length, because I guess if it was 0, then that would basically mean that the request failed. So let's just say if it's greater than 0. And then, so it never should give us more than 1, because we only ask for 1 user. So I'm gonna just kind of ignore any other results if it gives us more than 1. Let's just say variable user equals the first user in the list. Let's go ahead and make sure that this is working so far. I'm just going to log the user's display name. And logo. Oh yeah, called the profile image URL here. This is your logo or your avatar. If you haven't seen this syntax, it's only available in newer versions of C#. You can put this $sign at the beginning of a string to have C# automatically call string format for you. Then anything inside braces is converted to a string automatically. It's really nice. I guess we get something with 0 users, and we know there's been an error, so we can go ahead and just log an error. So error receiving data. I think it's all fine. I'll go ahead and do a debug log here just to say that we've initiated request. Oh, and of course we need to set this request working true. I guess down here we'll set it to false. So obviously the problem here is that if something happens and this gets users never gets called, then request working is going to remain true forever, and we kind of soft locked this. But again, this is just prototyping code, so I don't really care too much. So I'm going to move that component, then add our new component. What did I call it? Logo download. And again, this is already set to me, so go with that. Press play. Nothing should show up in here until I press the Q key. Then it initiated the request, got profile image. So I guess let's go ahead and test to make sure that it is mine. But it looks the same as before. So yeah. So gave us the right information. I guess I should make sure that that Boolean is working correctly. So we'll download the information once. Then I'll try to download it again. But yeah, so that works. And then if I tap it, it doesn't send multiple until we've already received a request. So that's okay. So we got the first part done. And then once we've received the request, we need to go ahead and download the image. So to do that, have this manual page. So the only problem here is that Unity has, well, you can read here, Unity Net is deprecated, which means that Unity doesn't really want you to use this code because it's going to be made obsolete sometime in the future. The only problem is they haven't made available the new version of their networking code, so we don't really have a choice, as far as I know anyway. So I'm just going to use this Unity web request. We'll use that to download the image. To do that, we need to go ahead and add using Unity. I guess it's Unity Engine. Can't spell. Networking. Then we'll have our private web request. This will be the image downloader. Something happening with my Twitch dashboard. Sometimes it just flashes, but I'm not sure what changes. Dropped any frames. That's good. So anyway, we can see here that now we're going to have more than one phase to this, so I need to change the boolean to an enumeration. I used to use enumerations all the time. All this state. But after using the data-oriented code, I've realized that not really that. I guess they're okay, but they're not really. They're kind of prone to bugs. So I've kind of gotten away from using it, but it's easy, so we'll just do it for this code here. Waiting. But user response. Then awaiting logo download. Then we'll just need to have private work state. Okay, so now if state is idle, the only time we'll actually initiate this. We could also do a switch statement. Yeah, I will do that. So if we switch state, case idle, add the break, and then we can just put that into there. Yeah, so we don't even need this check anymore. State to awaiting switching response. why I'm not getting indented correctly, but okay. So at this point, start waiting logo download. Image downloader equal to community web request. Let's see, how do we initiate image download? Add an actual code. Our code download an image already. Time on this, so download image. Okay, so I just saved the wrong web page earlier. So yeah, we'll just call. Okay, so we have to call the static function get texture instead of just creating it ourselves. Web request get texture, and so here we would put in the profile image URL. Oh, and of course, this should only happen if there's no error. So I guess if there's an error, we'll want to set this back to idle. Okay, so now it's going to start downloading this image. We could use a coroutine here, but there I'm already using the update function. And just if image done. First, we want to make sure that there's no errors. If is error, that is network. Then we'll just log error downloading logo. I guess we'll just add the error supplied by the image downloader. Okay, and so if there's no error, then we need to track the texture. Yeah, pretty simple. We just those types of errors. I guess I'll need to check for both of them. Oh, and I have to call this send web request as well. But anyway, so first we cast that and then get the guess need to compose. It does have it composed, so go ahead and call that and then reference to it. Then I guess let's go ahead and just print out the size. That's the easiest part instead of attaching it to a mesh just yet. Sure. Width. Height. Should be 300 by 300 or that. So yeah, network error or there is the error. I guess what would happen if I don't have connection to the internet, and then what would happen if there's a problem downloading? We're ready to test it now, and I'll just go ahead and press Q. Okay, it did start loading. Or it's finished loading. So, theory, downloading the image right now, but I'm surprised it's taking too long. Let's go ahead and debug so I can see what the private variable is. Waiting logo download. Oh, you know what? I forgot to call the send request. Again. Okay, yeah, so it is send web web request. There we go. That should get things going. Let's go ahead. Loading. Kind of know what's going on. Oh, and also, this is done downloading. I need to set state back to idle. Go ahead and turn off debug view there. Right, so started. Pressing Q. Yeah, so it downloaded the texture very quickly there. Like I thought it would. Yeah, and it did return 300 by 300, so I think it got the right thing. So now all we need to do is just set this texture to a mesh. I think I'll go ahead and create a separate function to do that. Private void. I guess create mesh and pass it texture to. First of all, I want to go ahead and be able to specify a material to use. Material. Think of the word. I guess prototype. Just go ahead and create a mesh in the center of the screen. It doesn't have to be super fancy. Actually, instead of creating it myself, I might as well just... I wonder if the Twitch, or not Twitch, the Unity plane has a UV set up like I'd want. I guess there's one way to find out. Build private. No mesh filter. I guess it'd actually be the mesh renderer. That's what has the materials. ahead and remove the collider because we're not going to do anything with physics here. I don't really have to create the mesh, but I'll just call it setup mesh. So really all we have to do is set this texture into the material. We'll just make a copy of the material prototype. Could also just use material attached to the mesh. And then we'll want to set texture. I think it's be called main text. Always add a T there. UI programming, I'm sure. I think that's all I have to do, actually. Oh, I should only do this. Successfully download it. Create a folder for materials. Then we'll go ahead and create a material in there. Let's just call it full flat. I want to use the lightweight render pipeline. Okay, well, it'll just be. I could make it even unlit. I guess it makes. This would be material we add to our. And then the test API, we just add them there. Oh, and I can get rid of this material prototype field. Right. Be good to go. So right now it's gray. Press Q. Okay, so it's still gray, so correctly. Okay, so it must not be called main texture. Maybe I could just use this main texture field. It will figure it out. So I don't have to go dig into shader. Please see. Reason the texture is not getting set here. Probably a silly mistake on my part. Oh, you know what? It was silly. I didn't set the mesh renderer material equals this new material I just created. This hopefully will. That unlit shader might have a strange name for base texture. I don't know. Working. Not being set. I guess we could make sure that the texture isn't just a gray square. What I can do to that is just have a field here. The down loaded texture. Then I'll just add it here. Should show up the inspector. So we can at least make sure that the texture is correct, and that way we know that we're doing something wrong setting it to plain. Easy part. Yeah, so here we can see it did download it correctly, but for whatever reason it's not setting it to material. So there are a couple things that could be wrong. I'm gonna check one other thing. Just add that newly created material here. I'll just call it test mat. Going to type text today. And so test mat, this will be this material. That way we can see if things happening, either this main texture isn't being set correctly or the mesh renderer is not accepting the material correctly. Okay, so yeah, it's not accepting the material correctly. Looks like, because even when I access the material directly here, it doesn't show up. So I guess I just need to look in the shader code. Is it shader? I need to find what they call that base texture. Alright, so it's called base map, not main texture. Fine. Works. Oh, okay. So yeah, that was the whole issue, was that the naming in the shader is different than Unity's code expected, even though Unity wrote that lightweight shader. But I guess that just goes to show how much Unity is in flux right now. But so here we go. And you can tell it's darker than we expect, and that's only because these simple flat shaders apply this color to the texture, which I forgot to fix before. So if we set it to white, then my little logo should be the correct color. So that's pretty much done with that. So now we've successfully downloaded a logo and applied it to a texture, so we know that's possible and we know how to do it. So let's move on to the chatbot. Sorry, I'm trying to mess around with it. Mess around with my lighting. And with my old streams, I always had to mess with them too. So the work in progress. Okay. Let's just go ahead and create a whole nother object. So this will be the chat. I guess let's call it the Twitch chat tester. Go ahead and add it to that same namespace. Be another mono behavior. So this time, back here and grab this code. We can use it as a base. So the client is the Twitch libs, I guess, chat client object. I want to save it here. So. Or let's not call it that. Let's just call it the chat client. That's better. Okay, so how this works is first you create the client and then you need to initialize it. And then this connection credentials is basically the username and password for the chatbot. So again, this is the bot username, which doesn't really need to be a secret. It's just Ned's bot. But the OAuth access, again, is kind of like its password, so can't show that on stream. And then this is the channel we want the bot to connect to, which is just going to be my channel Ned Makes Game. Obviously this is all configurable, and probably in the final game I want to be able to make this editable, but it doesn't need to be for now. I get my throat dry again. Okay. All right, and so yeah, that's how you connect the chat client. And then they have a bunch of callbacks here, which are called when the chat gets, or the bot checks certain events. They work. Well, they did it slightly different than they did with the API, I guess, because maybe you'd want to have or tie this specific request to a specific function. I don't know. But here they actually use C#'s events instead of that invoke tax. The sender is just the chat client. I don't really care about it. And then connected args is the information from this onConnect event. So when we receive this, I should check this. Okay, so we know that this chat client is connected at this point.
What is up, the world?
I always forget the quotation marks here. Chatbot connected. Then we'll just go ahead and pass the bot username. Is Ned's bot. Let's just test that. So we already have. I guess I should rename this to logo downloader. And this will be chat tester. Should just connect right when we press play. I guess I could have, if I want to, I can have a, yes, a Ned's bot's connected. If I want to, I could just have a button pressed down there to connect to chat, but I don't think it matters a lot. Yeah, it's connected. There's a lot of other events. that the chatbot can tell us about. But we want to know. I guess I want to know connection error. Let's not worry about that for now. Doesn't really matter. I mean, we want to take care of it later, obviously. Incorrect login. Deal with all that. Final game. And there's one for command, but oh, chat command received. So this is kind of just a special version of just receiving a chat message, but the chat command will have is any chat message that begins with an exclamation point. And a bunch about. So I think the chat message is the entire message, and the text is the part after the command word. And they also let you pass arguments separately. All that is. So basically, my goal is we'll type exclamation point hello, and then the bot will just reply to you. I do need to be careful because Twitch has posed like a chat limit. So if my chat bot respawns to people at once, then it will be automatically banned. So obviously I want to avoid that because then I'll have to go through the trouble of creating a new bot or... Well, I think it'd be unbanned after a day or so, but I'd just rather not have to deal with that because if it gets banned, obviously we can't test with it today. So I'm going to try to make a message throttler for that. Well, the way to do that, but maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. We should see if we actually can read the command. Also, I should probably disconnect the client when this on destroy. If chat client not null and chat client, can I tell if it's connected? Yeah, it is connected. Then chat client this. So we'll just disconnect it real quick before the game closes. I don't think it really matters, but go ahead and do that. Maybe I should do that. Check it now to make sure bugs. And bot connected, and then if I close it, no errors there, so I guess it's fine. Let's return to command received. Log. I don't have to keep typing command every time. I guess let's just get the whole chat message. Figure out what the difference between things are. Figure out the brackets. Pretty sure I know what the arguments as list is. It just separates every word, the chat arguments, the list. So I think that part is pretty obvious. I just don't know exactly what the difference between identifier and text chat messages. Once it's connected, I'll just type exclamation point hello bot the chat and see if it catches. Okay. All right, so the chat message is another object. No. Then the exclamation point. Okay, so the command identifier is exclamation point. The command text, the actual hello bot. Obviously, I didn't send any argument. Okay, so it has a bunch of information. Chat message. That's interesting to know, but we don't actually care about it right now. Let's see. Then from that command message. But you can get the user ID that way, but I'd rather just have the name for now. Reload it and see about that new information. Alright, so now that information, then no arguments, of course, and then from Ned Makes Games. Let's add an argument and see how that looks. Bot S2. Alright, so now we see the test 1 and test 2 appear in there. That's really nice, actually. It goes ahead and splits the message out for us so we don't have to do it ourselves. Now we have that. We want to listen to a specific command and then reply if we I guess we want to reply in the chat. I guess if command dot and text hello bot. Of it. I know it's usually not good to equals to string, but again, this is just a prototype, so it'll be okay for now. If I don't need to do another if. We'll want to say hello, but again, there's big requirements, not requirements, but rules against bots chatting too much. And Guide by Honest Dan Games does have some information about that. Oh, so they even explain about all that chat command. Careful sending messages from a bot in your code. If you accidentally message a bot every update, the bot will be banned automatically. That's bot message. Restrictions of a bot to prevent spam, which has placed restrictions on how many messages can be sent per second. I know probably press switch. The Ned's bot will get larger number of messages. Or what that would be. Let's just do a simple throttling thing here. So let's say private float. We'll do a date. The last chat. Set this to date now. And then I guess make sure it doesn't send a message once every 5 seconds. Please. Set it to 5 here. And then we'll just ignore any command that we receive if it's before the cooldown has gone away. Let's do this even here. Don't worry about date time, and we'll just have a simple timer. Silent timer. Then every update will just decrement the silence timer. Delta time. This is even simpler. Yeah, if the command text hellobot and chat silence timer is less than or equal to 0, then we know we're safe. Send another message. Be consistent with my times or with my variable naming here. I'd like to name this period because time and timer are too close. Go. We want to actually send the command, which I think is pretty simple. Send message. Have to. That's a little interesting. I have to send the channel, but I guess okay. I thought that would have already been known because I said to go ahead and join the specific chat, but okay, not a big issue. And the message will be hello. I put too many braces. That would be the chat message. I was looking here because if I just use username, it's gonna put everything in lowercase. So I'm sure there's a better way to get the username, but this thing. So I think that's all I have to do there. Chatbot is connected, so say hello bot. Chat should respond. And it did. Now if I say it again, it probably won't because silent timer. Probably. Let's make the chat period longer. Just so we can test that it works. Yeah, so now it's not going to respond to me because it has a 30-second silence period. Okay. That was simpler than I thought, because I thought doing all that maybe would be all I have time for this stream. Like, actually get started on the rest of the game. Right, so yeah, so that's all done. Go ahead. On. I guess I want to call this header. I guess now we're pretty much just going to make the game. We won't worry about the art at this point. So general design is, again, it's memory match game. So everybody has, well, there'll be a certain board size with tiles, and each tile will have a user's logo. And I go into how it like chooses which users are on the tiles and things like that. We won't really have to worry about that at this point. But the main thing is it chooses which users' logos are on the tile, and then to play the game, the chatbot will tally up a bunch of commands from everybody in the chat, and after a certain amount of time, it will randomly choose a guest. Then it presents that guest. Then the game presents the guest to all players, and then actually reveals it. And then whoever guessed correctly will get points. And if nobody guessed correctly, or if the chosen guess was incorrect, then it will just put the tiles back and restart. And then people can use their points that they accumulate to buy purchasables, which will either change the rules of the game, give them flashy graphics, or play sound effects or something like that. So that's my idea. I want to get, for sure, the basics of the game down, and then all the flashy purchasables and things like that we can basically add forever. So I don't know how much we'll do this month. It might just be something we do every once in a while for fun. That's something new there. Because I think my final idea would be to have this memory game playing in the corner on my stream. Because I know game development, not every part of it is super fun, so I figure having a little game would be nice during the more slow parts of it. So first, kind of need to figure out what we want to do here. And to do that, it's usually, I guess I should just pick something simple, kind of add on to it. Well, the main part of the game obviously is going to be choosing the tiles. So we should probably get that done first, and then we can add the downloading the logos. Maybe at first we won't even get commands from chat, we'll just let me pick or like insert commands at somehow. Yeah, but I think grand scheme of things is we start by choosing or figuring out board. Let's that. I always know times how to namespaces, because a lot of times I feel like things in one namespace should try not use things from other namespaces. I end up thinking way too hard about it. But I think we'll just have a namespace for the code that does the actual game, and then we'll have other namespaces that take care of the display and the chat, maybe. So we have game logic, so I don't want to say game logic. Call it core, I guess. Be the core game. Really like that, but I don't want to spend too long thinking of names. No, it's the worst part of programming. So we want to have, so yeah, I'm going to be using Unity's new data-oriented technology stack. So yeah, if you're not, it's a lot different than the games that I made last year on stream. That was more object oriented, and data oriented kind of have to think of things differently. So I feel like object oriented, you kind of look at the code from the top down and you think of the problem, and then you try to split it up into different objects that all do their job. And then, I'm trying to explain this best. And then they somehow have to communicate. Whereas in data oriented, you kind of think opposite. You try to boil everything down to just numbers and the data that you need to pass around between different algorithms. And the algorithms don't necessarily care about each other. They only care about the data. So you kind of think of the algorithms as transforming data, and they just kind of happen to transform the data into some form that you want at the very end. That's how I got it. I mean, it'll be more obvious as time goes on, I think. So anyway, so we obviously data we do have, we'll want something for the board. Let's just make a board. Check. I think I'm just got another way to organize the namespaces. The data-oriented stack kind of think of all code as either component or system. The component, it contains the data, and the systems transform the data. So sometimes it's nice to have different namespace for each of these. We're just deleted the folder. Still be here though. I'll just create sharp script. I'll just call it now this folder shows up. So components are so small, you usually don't have one file for every component, but just because we're gonna get a kind of bloated project. But first, the board, which anything by component data bit. These. Now, the way that Unity does their data-oriented stack, they really focus on the fact that everything basic like data type to work with numbers, basically. And they use that as a quote splittable, which means that basically the data can be copied directly to memory without having to be transformed any. And splittable types are float, int, boolean, a couple others. Thankfully, it also includes structures that are made of splittable types. So you can use vectors, and they even have these things called. Getting ahead of myself about that later. So right now I'm just trying to like conceptualize the data that will here. Because again, work from the bottom up, you kind of just add data and figure out how you transform data into different forms. This board here will basically, we just need dimensions really. And Unity also changed their math types to be int2. I think before we would use vector int or vector2 int. Now they like int2. Really, not really that different. They just wanted to be consistent with their shader code, which uses int2. I think that's really all we'll need here on the board. Might be thinking, why don't I have a list of all tiles? Because lists aren't splittable. So instead of doing that, you'll want to have a separate component tile. And then here you would have like a, don't really need it, but could probably use a byte that long, but instead you'll have an int tell its position grid. Then we'll also need to know which image it has on it. So have another integer for the image. Probably we'll need to have more information on here down the road, but I think this base let's start it on trying to think about what I want to do. I think what we should try to do is just create a board, then display it. I'm going to go ahead and create another scene. We already have one created. And basically this will be the scene that get all of our code running. And getting the data-oriented stack to work with the Unity editor is unfortunately a little confusing because Unity hasn't integrated everything into the data-oriented stack yet. I mean, it's understandable because it's a big task, but in the meantime, you kind of have to play around the limitations. So for example, kind of hard to do a lot of stuff with the meshes from data-oriented stack, so you kind of have to make bridges between the old and the new style code. Which I guess we'll see when we actually make the meshes. Go ahead and create an object. This be the board. We'll need this later because any meshes that we add to the board will. And I'll also want to have some object that will call bootstrap. I don't know if we'll do this the whole game, but for now this will pretty much start the game running. So basically it's add a entity to the entities into the data-oriented stack. Wrong term there. Oh yeah, it'll create an entity into the entity world, which then systems can grab onto. But have this board. I'm gonna go ahead and create a component. This state objects. Another interesting thing about data-oriented stack, or data-oriented programming, that you don't really want everything to be data. That includes state and flow of your game. So you kind of want to use, or correct term, but like instead of having like a Boolean or an enumeration to tell you what part of the game running, you instead want to have like an entity that exists with that says play active component or something like that, and then in a game look for the existence of that component to know what state it's in. I think that's better because now you worry about like anything that cares about that state doesn't need to know about the states. I guess I think we want to have some entity that tells the game that we need to build the board. Again, I don't want to think too far ahead because building the board is actually kind of complicated because we have to download all these tile images and all that. But for now, we just want to kind of create simple simple algorithm to just create some of the tiles of a certain dimension. We'll leave this here. This will just be system. Folder will probably get pretty big, so I might subdivide it later. So let's just make something called create an empty board. So full board initializer. So anything, well, there's two systems that you are, two classes that you'd want to, I guess, inherit from as a system. Main difference. Sorry, my voice is cracking again. So there are two different types of classes that you'll inherit from as data-oriented programming. In a second, but I can't talk about that and try to figure out this namespace at the same time. So you have just the component system. We'll probably use for this. So it just takes non-update, and every frame you can think. And then the other type is called the job component system, and it works with the job, or the Unity's new multi-threaded jobs. I think that type is usually more common because if you're doing components, you probably want multi-threading. because it's kind of made for it. But for this testing, yeah, that right. So every system kind of wanted to just do the bare minimum it can and just transform data from one to another. So I think what this will do is sees that there's a board of a certain size. That board will probably be tagged uninitialized. And then it will create the components for each of the tiles. Then some other class will see that there's uninitialized tiles and create data. At least that's my what I need here is one cool thing about systems is that you can set them to only run if certain entities exist, which is kind of like the mantra of the data-oriented stack in Unity. To do that, we'll want to create something called entity query. Use manager. Actually, no, I think I did. Well, yeah. So for a long time, I got entity manager, but it's actually better if you just use this get entity query, because then the query is set up within this. So I know anybody who's new to this doesn't know the difference, but so you can get pretty complicated with this entity query. You can but the main thing is we want to look for components, or I mean entities with a couple different. Then also, since this is multi-threaded, a big part of components that you want to keep track of what data you're going to write to. And so we're not going to write to any of this, so we can just say it's read only board. Get and space. So if we did it like this, this system would run every frame because the board's not going to go away once we create things for it. So we want to have some tag on the board that we can add to tell the game that it's initialized. Which actually, yeah, I do need to get a little bit more complicated. We'll send it a new query description. Basically just allows us to make more complicated queries. And then we say we want all these different component types to exist. So we want board to exist none of the component type. I'm just going to create an initialize component. So the cool thing about this is you can see this component doesn't actually have any information. That's okay because existence on an entity encodes information. Fine. They sometimes call that a tag. So now we say we only want entities that have the board component but not the initialized component. Then require update. Now we tell the system we call the update when at least one entity matches this query. Now that we have that, so we know that there's one board that's initialized, so now we need to actually get data about it. So to do that, we'll extract the data from the query. Oh, right, I didn't save a reference query. Weird indication. Yeah, so component data array returns an array of data. Well, do it without jobs for now, so what we'll want to do, so Unity's data-oriented stack doesn't like to use the normal C# arrays because they are called allocated onto the heap, which basically means they need to be created in memory and then disposed of later. That is okay usually, but Unity wanted to get away from it because it has two pretty big flaws that mess up, I guess, optimization of games. The first flaw is you have to get rid of that memory at some point. That's called garbage collection. And the second flaw, which garbage collection is kind of slow, but the second flaw is that that memory is just allocated anywhere randomly in the computer, and algorithms tend to work faster usually if the memory is all close together. So they tried to do both of those things by creating a new array called a native array, which is not allocated on the heap. That's what this is, returning a native array, but it's basically just a normal array, but and well, I guess when you're using it, but it has it's a lot different behind this. And one thing we have to do to this is to tell Unity how long we're going to use this array, because we have to deallocate it ourselves or dispose of it ourselves. And so we're going to tell it that this is just a temporary array, which means that we're going to deallocate it basically right when we're done with it before we exit this function. Now I have a list of all the boards, which there probably will only ever be one, but with it's usually better just to think of their possibility of there being more than one. List the board. Then we'll want to, I don't know, I'll just call it initialize board. Board 0. Boards I. Then when we're done, we'll go ahead and dispose of the native array. So I think I'm just gonna stop there and test our code so far. Or did it again. Analyzing. Well, this is going to run every frame, but that's okay. I guess we'll deal with that later, because we're not adding the initialize component to it yet. So we need to create this board entity so that this. So if we press run right now, nothing will happen because board entity has not been created. We can see that for sure by going into debugger. Actually, yeah, so this is like a list of all entities, or all systems, I'm sorry. And then over here we'd have entities, but we see that there's no entities. We also don't see our system here. That's because it's never run, so it's never even been created. I think it technically has been created, but it hasn't been added to that update list. I'm gonna do a couple things. So, you might have noticed, on now, but there was 3 groups of systems there: the initialization, the simulation, and the presentation group. We'll worry about why that's important later, but right now I'm just telling Unity what group this is going to be a part of. So I want to patch into this bootstrap object that will create that board entity. So it's going to be a mono behavior. Add behaviors. Let's just say board creator. This object probably won't be in the final game, but so I think probably make the capitalization correct. That and start. So to create an entity, it's not really that difficult. First, we're going to want something called the world. That one to be capital. And this is basically just all the entities in the world. I mean, it's what contains all entities. You can have multiple worlds in the game, but last I saw, it's not supported that well. Like if you have multiple worlds, the other one will get updated correctly. But that was a few months ago since I've tested it, so it might have been fixed. But anyway, we're just going to use world. I think it'll be fine. And we can have, in order to add into it, we want to get entity manager from the world, and then create. So we create an entity. It doesn't have any components set to it. So there's a few ways that we can add. We can call add the add component. Okay, so add component data must let you add once fix array. We'll just add component and then we'll just add a board. We just pass the entity. That is fine, but we want to add or set the dimension. We want to also pass the board to Let's make it 5 by 5. Start with. Why is it? It is add data. Okay. Yeah, so some of the this entity stuff is technically still beta. So they've renamed some functions and left in the old ones for backwards compatibility. So sometimes I get confused about which to use. Sorry about that. Cold weather has kind of made my allergies bad. Need a drink. Okay, well, I hope that we can at least still have 10 minutes, so we should be good. Want to at least demo some of this entity stuff. So we set the dimensions. This would create it. Probably fine. If you add more than one component data, it's usually better to use something called an archetype, which I think I'll go ahead and use now. Because what it does is it tells the entity manager that this entity is going to have these components on it, and so it can go ahead and add the entity to the correct areas right away. Great. Archetype. Be a type of board. Then we just pass the archetype. So now this entity already has the board component. So we should call set component data instead of add. I think it's slightly faster. That is good. I'll go ahead and add. Actually, we don't really need it. I was going to add a debug log, but we'll see the entity debugger. Later. But I should really make just the dimensions editable. Oh, if work, I guess it's schematics. Be board. Right, so let's see if that works. Set this to 5 by 5. Great, so we see entity 0. And when I click on it, it shows data above it right here, so we can see the dimensions 5 by 5. Okay, and we actually get an error here. Okay. I always forget about this little wrinkle. So I know we haven't talked about jobs yet, but so you can't use this temp allocator here, even though technically it's scope because we're deleting it before we exit the function. But when we add this 2-component data array, it gets scheduled to a job that gets completed right away. So if you ever use an array list into a job, you need to set this allocator to temp job, because technically jobs can take a couple frames to complete. So that's what that was warning us about. Now when we go, we should see a line in here about the board being created every frame. That's because we know the system is actually calling this initialized board. Alright, so let's see if we can create some tiles real quick. So we already know how to create an entity. I'm just going to do it the quote bad way. We'll fix it later. Anybody that knows more about this. Hi Neon Monk. Quick description. I'm going to make kind of like, you know, the memory board game. So it'll be like there's a bunch of tiles that are turned over or hidden, and then people in chat can guess which tiles are a pair and earn points that way. And the tiles will have different viewers' logos on them. The main idea. Simple breakdown. So the number of tiles we need is basically just the board's dimensions. X, board, Y. Told you with the logos. Yeah, I think that'll be pretty fun. Thinking also with points, you'll be able to get special flair or whatever around your tile and change some of the rules of the game. We're just gonna loop through here. In fact, I'm gonna get a handle on the entity manager here. Oh, hi Neon. Thanks for hosting me. I do appreciate it a lot. So this is just entity manager. I guess I don't really need to do this, but oh, still, I appreciate it. So we have the entity here. Oh yeah, we need to create the entity archetype. And I'm just gonna go ahead and use these archetypes because it is more efficient. Be a little bit more descriptive. So this will be the tile archetype. This will be the entity manager.create archetype, and I guess the type just be tile. Have that, and then just the dot create the and then we'll want to set this data. Yeah, set the data is correct. Set component data tile position will just be I. Yeah, because if you can identify a tile's position in a grid just with one number, if you kind of start from the top left and then count across and then go down. That's how we're going to do it here. Then the image, I'm just going to set this to 0. Later on, we'll have to initialize that to real numbers. So that'll be how you tell which tiles have a pair. We just kind of want to get some objects in the game. I think looking good. Oh, and of course we need to add the initialize component to the board, so this will run every frame. How you do that is we'll use add component here because board doesn't have the initialize component right now, obviously. Oh, except we need to get boards. So to do that, call to entity array, kind of the same as the component data array. and Unity will rearrange things so that the entity at position 0 has data at position 0 here. So it's nice that way. Rename that too. So we'll need to pass the entity as well. And of course make sure to dispose of it. Yeah, so now it's complaining that it doesn't match this signature of this function anymore, so I just need to add that. Since we're dealing with two different types of entities here, I'm going to a little bit more descriptive. And since the initialize component doesn't have any data, we can basically just tell Unity that we want to add this component, but we're not going to set it to any specific data. And I think that's it. We should have time to test it out. What should happen is we'll see a bunch of entities appear here, which are tile entities. So this entity 0 is the board, and then every other one the tile. And we can, if we go down, we see that this number will increment as X. Okay, so I think everything's good. Also, we can see that the simple board initializer system now appears in the list, although it says not run because nothing meets the query, which is correct. Then in the console, oh, I guess I deleted the debug log. I was going to show there's only one line, but the fact that there's not 1,000 entities now shows that this is only running for one frame, so that's all set up. And this is probably a good place to stop. So for right now, we're trying to create, well, we're trying to just do the board, and we just want to display game objects for responding to tiles. And then I also want to think of the word. I want to, I guess, fix up the board initializer, because some of the things I've done here aren't very efficient, but I guess I'll explain next time. Specifically down here, there's a much better way to initialize a bunch of entities at once. But I guess to stop it now so I can go do the rest of my stuff for today. But yeah, thanks everybody for coming by. I really appreciate it. I feel like that was a pretty good first stream back. Besides my voice, I'm really had any tech issues, which I'm so happy about. Go ahead and post my media stuff in chat if you're interested. I do have a Twitter, a YouTube, Instagram, where I will post just updates from my stream games, and also post when I go live. Then I have a Discord where I try to be online most of the day. If I have Do Not Disturb, feel bad to message me or whatever. I'll respond when I get off work. But type ! Discord and chat to get a link to that, or I'll put it on the video description for people watching from YouTube. Yeah, again, thanks everybody. Bye, I really do appreciate it. Us for hosting and stopping by. Be live tomorrow, and we'll continue on this. Maybe get some objects spawn for the tile and go from there. Y'all have a great day and see you then. Bye.